Whether you're a student or qualified therapist, joining the FHT will provide you with invaluable support and advice throughout your therapy career. Working as a professional therapist and helping others can be extremely rewarding, but it's important to know that should you ever need advice on therapy or business matters, there's someone you can turn to for support.
No matter how much experience you have and how good you are at your treatments, you never know if something's going to go wrong. You never know if a client's going to come back, unhappy or perhaps with a claim that's not quite right.
When you're on a playing field or when you're on a football field or in the treatment room, it's all about individuals on that day to get them fit. But there are so many other things that you need to develop. From a training perspective, you need to constantly train so you can learn new skills and pass those on to the clients.
There's all the insurance for the building, the public liability, insuring for your staff, things that I just wasn't aware of at all.
The client is the most important person. It's not about the therapist, it's about the client, and it's about safeguarding them. Even with eyelash tint, with eyelash perming, with the very basics of treatment, you can harm your client permanently. Cuticle nippers, you can draw blood. Even level 2 treatments, you can do damage. You need protection.
The law changes, and it changes faster than I can even think sometimes. So you need to keep updating your skills, and you need to be reminded of what the laws are and the different acts and how they change.
The Federation of Holistic Therapists, or FHT, is the leading professional association for therapists and has the largest membership of its kind. Many thousands of complementary beauty and sports therapists are part of the FHT in the UK, Ireland and overseas.
The critical mass of FHT is also quite unique, very important in terms of representing the profession and representing therapists themselves, who in turn need to ensure that somebody is fighting for their profession.
Barty Vias has been a practising holistic beauty therapist for 30 years. She owns 3 clinics in London's West End, has written several books and is a skincare consultant for Tesco.
FHT definitely helped me because really attending the meetings, attending the CPDs, I've learned so much from them. Knowledge is power. And FHT is the one which gives you that, because you can pick up a phone. They are always very helpful. Once you want to start your own business, anything like that, at that time, if you are not sure, when you belong to an organization like FHT, they guide you throughout. Also, insurance is another problem. Even as an experienced therapist and in being in business 30 years, even now, insurance, because I run a bigger organization with a lot of people working for me, even then when I went to the FHT, they actually tailor-made what my requirement of an insurance policy is. Now, that to me is fantastic because I trust them.
We can offer levels of insurance for anybody, from somebody working at home up to somebody working with elite sports or in a salon where they've got to employ people or they've got their own clinic at home. We probably get about 600 calls in a week. Of those, a vast majority related to insurance. So anything from new qualifications to am I covered for providing treatments, what level of cover do I have, even down to notification of claims. Our student insurance covers case studies for whilst they're training. They can go home and they can do practical, and it covers them to practice. It's a requirement of working with the NHS that you've got a minimum level of insurance. They don't provide it, so you've got to source it yourself, and that's where we can help.
I mean, we are becoming a bit more Americanised, and really to cover yourself, you do need to be covered with some sort of insurance and guidelines for, if something happened. I mean, if someone got on a couch and the couch broke and, they injured their back, as long as they've got all their paperwork together, you can always turn to FHT for the guidelines of how to go forward, really.
They're very well supported at college. They have a trained tutor with them at all times. They're covered by our insurance. This is why I always ensure that we have FHT come in doing talks, giving them insurance, professional indemnity, public liability, and it doesn't always occur to them until the end of their course that that's what they need. They come out for an umbrella of college that cushions them and gives them all the protection that they need, and suddenly they're on their own. And even if you're running a mobile or you've got a business over a garage at home, you've turned it into a treatment room, etc., you're on your own for insurance. It's you and the client. You need to make sure that you're safe with your client and your client's not in any danger.
Now, if you go into all fours, I'm a sports therapist. In terms of the biggest part of the enjoyment for me is it's helping people get fit, stay fit and perform better. And I think if you can do those three things to individuals, then you've got a pretty nice job. I do a mixture really, so I've got a range of clients from domino players, who just get bad necks. I've got semi-professional footballers, and I've got elite athletes. As you start to go up the food chain, you're starting to talk about dealing with players that are potentially worth millions of pounds. And from that perspective, they don't want anybody just to deal with their players. So if a client or a company knows, or a club knows that you're from a professional association such as FHT, that you're getting a certain calibre of person. The FHT, from my perspective, is almost it's like a shoulder to turn to, or a support network or team. It keeps me abreast of the industry news. So what is going on in the industry, and what do I need to do as a therapist just to keep track and aware of what's going on. It's got an excellent forum, and it's an invaluable forum from a therapist perspective. I've used the forum on a number of occasions. If I've got a problem with something, I'll pose a question and raise a discussion on the forum, and I get invaluable information from that. I've also done some cancer research events, and I've asked on the forum for helpers. So from that perspective, I've got inundated with people from the FHT. And what I know from this perspective is that these are qualified, highly respected individuals that I know I can work with and I can trust.
Well, welcome everybody. Thank you for coming along. I've been a member of the FHT now since 2003, so not very long really. A couple of years went by probably, and I kept thinking, I need to talk to a therapist. I'm working from home, I'm not seeing anybody, I don't get any contact with anything to do with anything else other than my own little bubble. Rang FHT head office and she said, well, why don't you do a support group? We haven't got one in the area, why don't you start one? Yeah, that's not a bad idea, perhaps I will.
Ever since this group started 5 years ago, I've been coming. There's always somebody really interesting, the talks are really interesting. I haven't been to a boring one yet, they've all been good fun, which is nice. When you're working on your own, if you're a solo therapist, I think you can get quite stagnant sometimes because you're not learning, you're not picking up on what's going on, what everybody else is doing. Like if you're in a spa working in a salon somewhere, you've got the other girls there, the other people there to sort of like spin off, bounce off. When you're on your own, you can get set in your own little ways, but when you mix here and the meetings here, I think are really, really, really interesting, really good. And it's nice. It's a nice social evening as well.
International Therapist is the membership journal of the FHT. Published every quarter, the journal is distributed to FHT members, therapy training providers and professional bodies. It offers unbiased and expert information on subjects ranging from aromatherapy and advanced electrolysis to sports injuries and how to run a successful business.
I'm a qualified personal trainer, but there's always other sections in the magazine, like the massage, reflexology, that takes my interest. So I read the whole magazine to get the broad variety of information.
Good morning, Benesestes.
I started off with a room in the house, and then I worked in rooms in gyms, and I was there for 9 years. I felt like I needed to make the business grow, and that's when I made I saw this property for sale, and I made the decision and jumped on with all 4 feet and went for it. So I went from one little room to 4 treatment rooms, so quite a big step really. I was really quite terrified when they accepted the offer. I knew I'd made a huge decision. but it's been the right decision and I've enjoyed every moment of it. I've been with the FHT since I was 21 when I qualified. That's a long time ago now. And yes, I've always known that they're there in the background for any support that I needed. And my girls that work for me now are all insured with the FHT, and there's support with training, support with health and safety and knowledge that we need to know.
I've been with Philippa, working for Bare Necessities for just over 10 years now. I came to her when I was 18 on work experience from college, and she took me on. I worked for her full-time for 2 years after I left, and I really wanted to travel after that. I went to work out in the Caribbean for 2 years, got in with a very good company, and then on from there went to help set up a spa in Spain. Stayed there for a year and then came back and became a skincare trainer. So rather than doing the treatments, I would travel around spas and salons and train up the girls in whatever treatments they were using. Before I went to St Bart's, I knew that most of the clientele was American and liked deep tissue massage, so I enrolled in a sports massage course, also shiatsu as well, because that's very popular out there. So yeah, absolutely, every place I've gone I've learned different techniques. And it's very important to have a company such as the FHT behind you. I mean, training never stops. A good therapist will never ever stop learning. There's always new courses to go on and new treatments to learn. And it's a comforting thought that no matter where you go and work, and no matter what you go and do, you've always got that insurance behind you.
FHT as a professional association will ensure that its memberships are able to differentiate themselves from those poorly or non-qualified therapists.
Oh yes, FHT is more than an equal partnership. I'm just one college lecturer. FHT goes nationally. It can support all of the trainees, the students, the qualified, the holistic therapists. It covers the whole gambit of therapies.
I personally think FHT is the best organisation to belong to for all of us who are thinking holistic.